we've got a lot to talk about. There's been quite a lot going on these last weeks and months. See a big piece we released last week regarding the future for HydraDX protocol, the features that we'd like to roll out over the next 2 years, and subsequently the request for funding. So we thought it'd be good to get everyone together again and talk about some of those features, maybe further your understanding on them a little bit more, and get some feedback and generally answer any questions you may have. So Kuba, do you want to kick things off with a summary?
Yeah, sure. So hello everyone, thanks for coming. Yeah, we obviously the hardest proposal ever generated a lot of questions. If we would try to answer and cover everything, the blog would have probably 1 kilometer and 30 minutes for reading, so no one would read it. So we were thinking that it would be better to use this format and also establish finally this format more often and not in like random times, on which we are working as well as all together with increased transparency and increased updates for folks who don't understand our GitHub, which is as one of few projects absolutely and completely open source. So like there is everything new pushed on, but obviously for normies like me who are not developers, as I am not developer as well, it's hard to understand where we are and where we are heading. Covering also how we are gonna spend the funds. So we believe the big differentiator to other treasury funding proposals or other teams juicing treasuries is that we are not asking money for the boring maintenance and waiting for the next bull market, but we are gonna ship with those funds like state-of-the-art features which we found out that it would help us to create best DEX or best liquidity layer, very nicely co-integrated. All this, or like where is Hydra heading? It's actually like it's nothing new or nothing trendy. Actually, many of those ideas or future features were meant to be there pretty much from the start, or even before the start of project itself. Basically, in the times when we started with Substrate development in 2019, we actually chose Substrate with some of these features which we are planning in mind. So that's basically what we were presenting. Is not some like recent ideas, but we always knew that we are heading here or basically there with all those features. We obviously, as you can see, as many people are often like questioning like why we are not putting more effort to the marketing. So we were just not talking about money markets and liquidations and all this stuff before we released the bare minimum and the absolute core foundation for all other features on top of it, which is Omnipool itself. Like we would found it like pretty stupid to talk about things which requires Omnipool itself. But as the Omnipool itself is live, it's chugging along very nicely, even better than we expected before. Now's the time to finally introduce all those stuff especially with some other cool features, which are unfortunately also blocked by that not the easiest situation, that we have to unfortunately do Sophie choice between covering development itself and audits, which are pretty costly, which are basically blocking improving Omnipool itself, as we don't want to push into production code which was not audited by third party, or like very advanced third party, like is our partner runtime verification. So that's where we are right now, and I don't know, let's move to the questions.
So while anybody's posting any questions they may have, either in the AMA channel on the right there, or reacting, you can then speak and ask the question on the microphone if you're not mic shy. Thought it's also useful to provide a quick summary of where we're at in regards to liquidity. So we've been through referendum number 18, we agreed with the community a diversification strategy and rollout of liquidity for Q1. We're obviously 2/3 of the way through Q1 now. As of referendum 34, which has just been approved and will be enacted in about an hour and a half-ish, we will have about $6.5 million worth of TVL in the Omnipool, of which it will include the 2.22 mil of ETH, 2.22 mil of DAI, 1.11 mil of WBTC. So those three assets will have achieved their Q1 targets. HDX, we still have a little bit of wiggle room to add more, and there's ongoing discussions in the forums regarding how aggressive we want to be in adding those, so the treasury has a larger amount of the liquidity for those. We also have the 250,000 DAI worth of WBTC ready to swap into IBTC as soon as our OTC trader goes live. The OTC trader will TLDR allow the protocol to put up a ask of, for example, we want $250,000 worth of IBTC in exchange for WBTC. We will lock up that WBTC, and then anybody will be able to trustlessly swap either partially, or if they're a giga whale, in full, that ask. So that the biggest issue we had with getting IBTC, USDT, and when it comes around USDC for protocol and liquidity is the fact that we would involve third party, and we'd have to have some element of trust for that. So as a team, we decided there's no solution available, so let's build one. So,
no, I just want to add that that usually that's how other DAOs are dealing with this, or there was some like clunky ideas to set up Bitcoin multisig and do it somehow through the Tor chain and stuff. It was like, we were like, that's not gonna happen, or that won't be like very elegant. Also, even if there will be available native USDT and native USDC, that instead of dealing with Circle or Bitfinex, which like both parties right now, it's hard to communicate with them, we realize that if we will do this like simple OTC kind of feature, everybody can step in to this like one-off arbitrage, and it will be still more elegant and easier for protocol and for us to get some like desired assets without dealing with these third parties, either issuers or usually for other DAOs. It's done by market makers, and as we saw last year, even they can pretty easily mismanage the funds, not just intentionally but also unintentionally. So yeah.
So that will give us the way that we can source IBTC and of course USDT as well. So the IBTC, we've got the channels open with Interlay, so there's no issues there in terms of how we can source that. We can use the OTC trader. USDT, we're waiting for the statement channel to open up. There's an ongoing referendum on Polkadot, referendum 106, which has about 8 days left of voting. So if you're a DOT holder, please do go and vote in support of that. It's passing unanimously at the moment, but you'll never know which way these things are going to go. So in 8 days, we should then be able to also source the USDT through that as soon as the OTC trader is live. And then whilst we're on the topic of channels, we have now got working channels in both directions with Interlay, Fala, Akala, and Astar. We have a statement on the way. Centrifuge are currently debating through their governance as to whether or not they're going to open a channel with us. And we've also sent a request to Moonbeam. That requires a bit more work in regards to Moonbase Alpha integration. And there's also a discussion just started in our Subsquare forum around Bifrost integration as well. So lots of activity there in regards to opening up channels and then what that could bring afterwards. So that's a sort of summary of where we're at in the absence of an immediate deluge of questions. I guess what I will ask then is in regards to the features that we outlisted on the blog. Which feature or which features are you most excited about, and how will they help Omnipool to realize itself as the true multi-headed liquidity monster?
Cool. Do we want to cover also some ecosystem initiatives which didn't fit into the blog?
Sure, if you'd like to dive in and drop some alpha on those.
Yeah, so there will sound like very good comments in the funding proposal itself that we should use we should utilize much better Polkadot treasury. That is actually going to happen with one of the most strategic and meaningful initiative which we are leading with the Valerie. It's meant to be. We will actually going to ask to allocate meaningful amount of dots for sponsoring security audits for Parachains which are sensitive for security, which are obviously DeFi Parachains, but also maybe privacy solutions like Manta and others. And so far there is like very good feedback on it, and it looks like, or like we have like quite big hopes that such initiative can pass. There will be other CTOs and other leading projects contributing to it, and it will also help to create or establish much better ecosystem of security audit companies for the Polkadot and Substrate ecosystem, because there is like pretty big gap between needs of ecosystem and skilled workforce which can fuel this, and companies which are which can fill these needs, because also these companies, they have usually Rust experience, and you can imagine that the other other ecosystems utilizing Rust in their stack is obviously also trying to get the same companies to audit them. So there are a shit ton of Cosmos chains with the Cosm Wasm virtual machine, which is using Rust for their smart contracts. Solana is pretty much whole in the Rust, and a couple of other blockchains are using Rust. So all of them are competing for very few number of companies, and we want to present we are basically preparing meaningful and better business opportunity for these companies to allocate enough of people for the big line of audits which will be coming, or which will be needed for the next 12 or 18 months. So we are pretty happy about it. This can also help not just us but the rest of the ecosystem quite a lot, to also at least try to at least like decrease probability of disaster events like AUSD exploit or maybe others. Then together with Interlay, we are leading another initiative to come with other parachains for Polkadot Treasury and ask Polkadot Treasury for the liquidity incentives and maybe POL for the protocols like VR, which can have some notion of POL in their stack, to try to create programs similar to Avalanche Rush or Polygon. Polygon has the same initiative, and we believe that if it's targeted in a smart way, it can help a lot, not just us but the whole ecosystem quite a lot. Basically both initiatives should go live for discussion, for public discussion, I believe next week, hopefully. So also have your dots ready for the follow-up voting for these absolutely necessary and super important initiatives. And what else? Yeah, and like coordinating of all those things and many more, like opening the channels and getting more parachains on board, and also coordinating with Parity and other parties to improve ecosystem is quite it's it ain't easy. It's taking a lot of time, but we are getting there, and that's also pretty much answer on some other good questions like how we see Polkadot as an ecosystem and if we are not planning to migrate to ETH. I think like the pretty much bottom of the Polkadot was now, and if we will be able to kickstart those two initiatives with plenty of available resources which are just doing nothing in the treasury or being burned, can propel whole ecosystem much further. And yeah, this didn't fit into block because it would be like too much in it.
So in summary on those, the audit proposal is around the fact that we found audits to be very expensive and auditors hard to come by in this ecosystem, where the language is not as commonly used as, for example, in EVM, Solidity, etc. You can find auditors left, right, and center for that, but they're much harder to come by in Rust and for Substrate. So it's we're hoping that by getting together the funding with all of the other teams, engaging with the auditors in advance and sort of demonstrating to them that work is available for them, that we can entice more auditors to come, get through a greater share of audits in the ecosystem, and make us all the products safer as a whole, because shared security, we're obviously sharing that burden between all of us. And in regards to the other piece that we're heading up with Interlay, as you said, there's a need to demonstrate that Polkadot has some stuff to do now. With the launch of Omnipool and some of the other Parachain projects, you see an awful lot of FUD on CT around Polkadot as a whole, around, there'd be nothing to do, this is terrible. People are not paying attention to the fact that, Talisman and Nova Wallet are absolutely fantastic and better UX than MetaMask and everything else. So we sort of need to do something big to attract them to the ecosystem and make them realize that actually it's not a meme coin, it's not the EOS of 2021, and there is stuff to do. So going back to the blog and those features, where do you want to summarize how these sort of slot together to make? So we've released Omnipool version 1, super innovative in regards to AMM, but do you want to describe vision for how each of these pieces can take it to the next level and target that holy grail of real yield?
Sure. So AMMs and DEXs are cool, but to compete with centralized exchanges is like different beast. So everything what we are proposing is for the sake of either improving capital efficiency or improving prices, or fighting issue which is called toxic flow, from which AMMs are usually suffering the most, because the most of the AMMs are pretty let's say static. So they are basically not aware of what is happening in their markets itself. So either dynamic fees, which we have ready, pretty much just again pending audit, and like research team is finalizing some more modeling. They will shift Hydra into operation or functioning pretty much similar to real world market makers, because our oracles which we created to have a sense what is going on in our markets. In our case, we are speaking about so far internal oracles, so we don't have price feeds yet from the other markets, but the interface is pretty much ready to also plug their price feeds from other exchanges. So our oracle is especially in that sense that it's tracking not just dollar prices and TVL, but volume, and most importantly, direction of the volume, which is pretty cool, because then it's like, because when there is some shit happening in the markets, like for example, someone start to selling a lot of something, like in last year we saw that UST is suddenly suspiciously only sold, and no one is like pretty much buying it, or Luna, or even FTT, then like professional market makers, they are not stupid, and as they don't know what is happening, or maybe they know what is happening, they're pulling out liquidity from the order books. So if you will come there and with like shit ton of these shit coins, you can't sell them so easily, or you can't sell them for the price which was there, like, I don't know, like a couple minutes ago, or like whatever time ago, or like recent, because for these professional market makers, it's suspicious that suddenly many people, or at least like a couple of whales, are trying to sell as much of some asset, and and the dynamic fees which we created and the oracles are also improving the security of the all liquidity, because like one of the most notorious risk for Omnipool, and it was like most notorious question all the time was like, okay, but what if something will go wrong with some specific asset which will become toxic, or someone will be able to exploit minting function of the asset, again exactly like what happened with AUSD. So we come up with these like dynamic fees which can basically scale trading fees for this asset like even exponentially. So if there will be only just big sell pressure on some specific asset, the Hydra can increase fees on it from that 0.3% to even like 99% or like whatever. And then so that's one of the super important solution. It's also very necessary, like if you are following some more like advanced DeFi researchers, like I don't know, Tarun Chitra from Gautland Network or A16Z and like I mean their research department, and a couple of others, or Bain Crypto Capital and others, like they are also describing dynamic fees as pretty much only viable and realistic solution how to deal with impermanent loss, because again like in opposite scenario, if some tokens start to pump like too much or like too quickly, then again professional market makers, they are not selling you these tokens which are going up, and they see that they are going up cheaper than they think, then it looks like it will be in like couple of next minutes or hours. So what they are doing, they are increasing spreads and they are pulling out the liquidity, so you are not able to buy it for cheap price, a lot of it. While other AMMs with static fee, they are they are naively or very very freely, they are like filling every order which you are sending to them. So this is one of the most important improvement which we have prepared. Then like we were aware of MEV like pretty much from even before 2019, and we were never describing Hydra or our solution is like, oh, this will be like fully MEV resistant, because MEV is such complex issue and topic, and so many people claiming that they solve MEV. It was like just later someone who were thinking and working more adversarially than the author of the solution just came up with a strategy how to beat this solution, that we were like, to be honest, we were following a lot of research. I have access to the founder of Flashbots, Stefan Goslin, and others. So we were discussing with them for years this issue, and there is like no silver bullet. So there is no silver bullet for MEV, but also not all kind of MEV is bad. There is also like very desirable type of MEV, which is so-called backrunning, which is basically arbitraging some price back after some like initial buy or sell, if the market maker or arbitrager believe that the price will go back, or is it or on other markets where he has placed liquidity as well, he's able to close this spread. So what we can do about it. So some of you might remember like our beginnings when the Hydra went live on the Hekusama in summer 2020. I mean, as like when we go live, that we announce project and we show first of our code. Actually, one of our first feature there was so-called order matching, which was our solution, which then was validated by other projects, like for example CallSwap and Gnosis, that basically you can match as much of orders off chain, calculate the best price for them and basically average them, and do the settlement for the best price possible. And this has like pretty strong anti-MEV properties. And also another like upcoming trend to the DeFi space is something called payment for order flow, which will be used by more and more projects, which basically means that again some people who are good enough in arbitraging and market making of the markets, for them is like very beneficial if they see as much of orders all over the crypto. They are even like happy to pay for this exclusivity to see that and arbitrage that. And if you will combine the order batching, so you will batch all orders together, and then you will try to do something like global or unifying settlement, then you can sell the rights for someone who think that he can backrun these transactions profitable and in successful way, which he can do this lookup at the end of the block. And if he will do that, he will actually average the price even for better of the all transactions before this. So all of this, like everything what we are describing right now, this was really research of many. That was like we had like a lot of these ideas in past. It was validated by great people from other projects or like other research companies or whatever, and this is like pretty clear where the whole industry is coming. And the big advantage of us is that over the time we we pretty much get familiar with substrate and everything what we are doing. So, and as we were playing and as we were having even in past this some of these features already coded, but over the time we also realized how to make them better. We believe that we can ship them much faster in in much better quality than before. So yeah, that's pretty much it. And the Hydra also started in notion of how to make the whole DeFi more efficient, because the spot trading is cool and absolutely necessary, but if you want make DeFi really like useful, you need to do something with capital efficiency of money markets and how you can squeeze the super high over collateralization ratios, which is also pretty laughable for like people coming from TradFi, and they can't wrap their head around like why do you need put somewhere like 150,000 collateral to get 100,000 loan. How we can the reason why these over collateralization ratios and big liquidation fees and all the negative properties are that basically you can't guarantee reliable liquidation on ETH or pretty much any generalized smart contract platform, because when there is big volatility and when again like something big is happening, the all other projects and all other like smart contracts and everything and users are doing some stuff. They are either like minting NFTs or they are like doing swaps here and there. There are other liquidations. There are people doing bunch of transfers. So you have like no reliability that someone will repay the debt properly and on time. And that was another. And when we were looking at it, even like 2019 and especially in 2020 when there was this like big COVID crash, and basically there was a bunch of collateral in MakerDAO which wasn't liquidated properly because there was the dump was too quick, and Ethereum was clogged as always. Not as always, but as always in such scenarios. Like there was another big reason why we chose to build Hydra's upchain and not to just deploy it somewhere as a set of smart contracts, because it allowing us to make liquidation transactions as most important transactions, as we believe that they are like basically bread and butter also for every derivatives exchange. So basically like the success of BitMEX or even FTX was pretty much related that how quickly or how reliable can liquidate the trader's position, while also over the time people are realizing and that basically their positions are sometimes liquidated not very transparently or very weirdly, or also like over the time unfortunately the whole space realized that FTX didn't have pretty much any like super advanced liquidation engine, but it was just like Alameda with some like God mode turned on. So back to it, if you have bunch of liquidity and upchain, then you can bend the whole blockchain in a way. And if you have like good blockchain and fast blockchain, you can basically bend and modify the whole blockchain in a way that it's serving your core use cases which you are offering to users in the best possible way, and not introducing the crazy trade-offs as you can see elsewhere. And what does it mean practically is that basically every like collators, they will need to calculate the held ratio of these CDPs sitting on Hydra, and if they are like too close to liquidations, they will basically start to process them exclusively as a first. That such a reliability of this use case can't be achieved on any smart contract protocol, while while ironically Tezos, a Tezos founder and also Solana founder, they pretty much realized the same fact. So they are even like thinking about applying same rule for their chains, because yeah, they pretty much came to the same conclusion as we in 2020. So yeah, so there is a lot of stuff which can move us to become a DEX, which where you can get like best execution, and where you can be sure that like no one has like some weird or like some like preference on using the platform, or someone is front running you, etc., etc. The current TVL is intentionally pretty low. Like after a few weeks of our launch, there was some these like small bugs with the Lerna burning, which was supposed to be much higher. This was like nice to have bugs, but we also, after that, we also spend much more time on reviewing everything what we done so far, and we are also preparing more features for increasing security. So I don't want to touch the AUSD exploit too often, but this was really like super eye-opening for us. What can happen to us in this ecosystem or in crypto in general. So in the meantime, we prepare and we are finishing very cool and very important feature, which we are calling XCM rate limiter, which will be basically slowing down availability of some like suspiciously big transactions coming to Hydra. So if someone will be able to mint like too much of something and he will bring it to Hydra, then basically Hydra automatically will not allow to dump everything instantly. The same will be for the outflows. If someone will find a way how to exploit some market or Omnipool itself, this rate limiter will basically slow down that person quite dramatically if someone will be trying to run away with millions or like tens of millions of funds. So it can provide some time to community and technical council to check what is going on, because like usually like pretty straightforward use case for any exploiter or hacker to exploit stuff, to juice it as much as possible quickly, and then as quickly as possible to run away with funds. Yeah, what else? So yeah, there was this like big primer on the security, and obviously we are also aware of some issues which are blocking the bigger growth, like UX. Akala is working right now on the router, which will basically allow much more seamless bridging experience, which will help. And also, as Polkadot and Parachains liquidity are much more abundant, we were working on getting this before we will turn any incentives. Also, liquidity mining is coming together pretty nicely. You can see it and try it on the Basilisk, which is like super helpful to find out some potential issues. The front end is coming together, and we are really expecting liquidity mining goes live at the end of the March. Did I forget something?
No. I think you can break those down into a bunch of buckets, right? So you've got DCA, dynamic fees, order batching, and PFOF, which sort of together give the best price execution. You've got deeper liquidity through the dynamic fees because it's sort of more profitable for users. So better price execution as a DEX. You've then got the money market and liquidation engine, which will certainly help in terms of reliable protocol revenue. And just sort of, again, supporting that deeper liquidity. I think you also touched on the security side that we're doing. We get a lot of questions around security because everything's in one pool. So naturally people sort of worry like, oh shit, what if something goes wrong? So as you've said, we've got the dynamic fees will help with that side. We've got the rate limiter, which will really help with that as well. And then sort of side to improve things more.
Oh, there is actually one more feature for the security. We came up with this before the launch, but it's not it's not finished yet, and it will basically automatically pull out liquidity of asset which is oversold. So this will again make Hydra much more like aware of itself and what is going on the protocol level and in the markets, rather than just keeping it as it is, because that's also what that's also what happened in the UST, that basically people which didn't withdraw UST from the curve pools, basically all of their liquidity was just like used for draining it away. So people were selling UST in these curve pools until they're left like, I don't know, 10 USDC from from so yeah. So all of these, every shit show which we saw so far in crypto, we were trying to learn from it as much as possible and come up with the best solutions possible. Same as obviously there was like even internal shit show, so we were reinventing ourselves and do maximum to not repeat it. While on the other hand, like honestly, we couldn't go live much sooner anyway, and even if we would make it like sooner, then like not sure if we would still be here, because the AUSD was, we were like seriously considering to use AUSD as much as possible, either to even for the sake of support of Akala and Polkadot ecosystem, and either as a like native stablecoin, same Nomad bridge, like there was like great sentiment about Nomad team, because James Preswich, that's the guy who is basically playing with atomic swaps and all other interoperability solutions basically from 2017 or 16. So like yeah, so like that was supposed to be like number one bridge which we were planning to use. So when all of this was playing out as it play out, like we also felt like we dodged like not just one bullet but two bullets. So yeah, now we're here and we also need to help rebuild ecosystem kinda, but I think we are also getting there. So yeah.
So that covers the majority of the features in there. There are two features which we haven't touched on because they don't fall on into those buckets. So you may want to just briefly touch on them, and that is our bonds and HDX staking.
Yeah, so just briefly on both because I'm talking quite a lot. So the bonds. So bonds were super successful in case of Olympus, and it was like very cool way how to buy the liquidity for them. But it's not super efficient because like you need to sell these LP shares for quite a big yield, and then people obviously were dumping this yield, and then like you can't do much with these LP shares. It's because it's like coming from some other DEX, and you don't have like good way how to control them or how to like wrap them, unwrap them. In Omnipool is much more simple. We don't need to buy liquidity in this like weird way of like some two tokens merged together in some like another token, but we can really target like specific assets. Let's say Hydra wants to be biggest Bitcoin whale. Cool. So we can basically set these targets and basically offer these bonds, which will be basically working probably pretty much to like classic bonds or like zero coupon bonds. So people will exchange, let's say, 1 Bitcoin for HDX worth of, let's say, 1.2 Bitcoin, and people will be also competing for the yield in terms of maturity. So people who will choose a longer vesting period will get obviously higher yield on these bonds than than those who chose shorter time frames. Our bonds might be more cool because two things. The first one, bonds are superior to liquidity mining because uh, because the bonds are a way how to acquire other and more assets to POL, while liquidity mining is obviously always temporary. The other cool stuff about bonds will be, as we will have a working money market, so you will be able to borrow against your position. There will be no issue. The people will be still liquid. Even people who will, for example, choose the long maturity of the bond. Let's say I will exchange my Bitcoin or IBTC for HDX, and I don't care that the HDX will be vested for 3 years. I would be still able to borrow for example, stable coins against this bond. So then I'm like still liquid, and the bond actually will be increasing in value because there will be, like you will basically collect much more of this yield. The thinking behind bonds is also kind of simulate proof of work, because like one of the best feature of the proof of work is that it's the only way how to exchange some exogenous assets. In case of proof of work, it's even like computational power or electricity for the crypto coin or for the crypto token, which is, and then as you have like big costs on it, you need to sell it. So proof of work is much better for the like really decentralized and wide distribution, because miners obviously needs to cover their cost. What is big issue with proof of stake is that teams are usually pre-minting the whole supply, and then like no one, then the only way how to buy coins of this proof of stake networks is just like buy it directly from team, but the team is also usually one of the biggest, if not biggest staker, so they are still getting new one. So the bonds will be way for bigger participants to acquire additional HDX with lower slippage than they would be doing it if they would be just buying HDX out of market. But also at the end of the day, it will be still much better for the protocol and for the community, because we can increase protocol own liquidity dramatically, without which, and the protocol own liquidity will stay in the protocol, so it will not evaporate like liquidity mining, like liquidity related to liquidity mining schemes or campaigns. While they are like very useful for kickstarting activity, but then usually these liquidity providers, they are moving the liquidity elsewhere, while POL will always stay in the omnipool. The reason, or like also why is it important, this funding proposal, or how is it related to bonds? If we would switch to treasury funding, and we would be selling off HDX to cover all these costs for the security development, research, etc., or even like worse, we would be selling team tokens, while we can't even sell team tokens because there is cliff until May, and then we will have unlocked like still like pretty little, so we can right now sell anything from the team. But anyway, this would decrease valuation quite a lot, and that means that we would acquire via bonds just very little outside capital for the POL. So bonds might be very cool and very useful, but bonds will be more powerful if the market cap of HDX will be meaningful and not like super small. Then staking. The story behind staking was that when we were preparing launch, and basically there was this like aftermath of FTX and Genesis and all the shit show, the market really didn't didn't look super positive. But obviously we didn't want to delay launch more than we should or could. Like there was like, obviously we wanted to launch as soon as we are like absolutely confident and ready that once we launch, nothing will break and the market is what it is. So, but we were thinking how to meaningfully absorb sell pressure of HDX, because obviously many people even from this community lost money even in Celsius or Luna or in FTX or somewhere else, which we unfortunately didn't cause, but we are fully respecting that people needs to cover maybe some of their life needs or whatever. And we were thinking about staking in a twofold: how it can help absorb sell pressure, and how it can help align incentives, and how to reward people who are really like long-term supporters and believers, and they want to support us even longer. So there are currently two kind of mechanisms for staking, and it's not sorted out yet which will be working. But the first proposal is to, after the sell-off of HDX, there is asset fee on the asset which is leaving the pool. So for example, someone is dumping HDX for let's say DOT. So what we can do, or like what can protocol do, is take this asset fee which was related to dump of HDX and buy back the HDX right after the sell. And if the sell pressure will be stronger, then there will be also like increased buyback on this HDX thanks to dynamic fees. And then we can basically redistribute this HDX to people who will be staking HDX, and their share on this yield will be basically based on also maturity, or like time, how long they are staking. And basically, if we will do this, then all the yield is not coming from the inflation, it's not coming from the treasury, but it's coming from this like economic activity, and it's like rewarding people who will be in this game with us longer. So that's one way how to do it. Or the second way how to do it, which would be also targeting the issue with HDX liquidity providers, as the providing of HDX, the liquidity providing in HDX is quite sad story, because on the other hand, we are like super thankful that you step up, or like community step up after the initial huge dump and buy out HDX. But then the same people, or like a lot of them, they were excited, or they wanted to do something useful or something more with the HDX, just rather than just like letting it sit in the wallet. So they were providing liquidity. But then as also HDX pump after this event, they had obviously impermanent loss on it, because the pump or price increase was basically like too strong. in like too short time. And obviously we understand how hard is sitting on your hand, and that we would need to add some more use case. So the other proposal for the HDX staking is that basically the only liquidity provider of HDX will be Treasury, and HDX stakers will be getting yield from purchasing HDX. So right now we have on the table these two solutions or variants. There was also another variant which we have to dismiss because we find out that via wash trading it would be possible to drain the HDX liquidity. So why I'm telling this? I'm telling this because as always we are trying to think where the things can go wrong in this mechanism and how we can do it best as we can, and what would be the side effects of it, or what will be the outcomes of this. And we are getting back to it basically next week to make the best the best solution for the staking ASAP. They have also like a lot of nice side effects which I don't want to cover right now, but yeah, but it's happening. And also another reason for introducing the staking is also to resolve or to help with low turnout in governance. So obviously these people HDX stakers will have probably stronger voice in the community, and it or either via delegation of their votes or via the active participation, or maybe one another cool variant would be the maximum potential yield will get stakers who are participating pretty much on all votes, because as we saw on Mangata and also recently in like the widespread widespread attempt to attack basically all on-chain governance systems in whole Kusama and also Basilisk. The governance attacks are real, and they are like pretty dangerous, or like they could be like easy and pretty harmful if you have like low voters turnout. So yeah,
we had with referendum 34 after having 33 last week sniped at the last minute. We actually had our highest turnout that I've seen to date, with 107 Hydra heads voting on the most recent.
But to be honest, it's still like pretty low turnout. It's like it's pretty abysmal number. So yeah, we need to. So yeah, obviously we are not only project which has this issue. It's basically it's like every project in crypto. Even like MakerDAO and other big DAOs which are operating as DAOs for years, they have like pretty much similar numbers, but as we are using Substrate and on-chain governance and these forkless upgrades, the HDX voters and holders, they have like absolutely unprecedented ultimate power to change everything, and ultimately even like dispersed all assets to them. So there is no other way around how to align game theory with governance and economics of the projects in a way that the protocol is robust enough against any adversary and any governance attack.
Yeah, super excited to see how that will roll out when we flesh out the sort of preferred model for staking. But yeah, positive comments from people on that. So we do actually have a question from Barney in the chat here. So he says, liquidity seems to be the ultimate problem with synthetic assets right now. Fragmentation disallows strong pegs in most cases. If a team is building synthetic asset protocols, how can they use Hydra to solve that? / can Hydra handle synthetic asset use cases built on top of it? Understanding that learner stability is paramount, are there other barriers that would need to be accounted for before we could see that type of protocol plugged into Omnipool? Damn, wordsmith.
Yeah, so in terms of specs, one another feature which is basically waiting to be audited is stable swap subpools, which are allowing to swap tokens which should be pegged or which should have some price parity to be pegged in with a similar trading curve like on Curve Finance or elsewhere. So as this will be audited and merged, like this can help them a lot. And if we will also, if community will decide to list them. Was there else? But also like we need to be careful how the specific synthetic asset is working and what is backing it, and what are the potential risk. But also the like every synthetic asset is like pretty much different, because they are also, if it's stake assets, they are accruing staking yield in various ways. So VDOT from Bifrost is accruing the staking rewards in different way as LDOT from Akala. Then you have things like synthetics from from synthetics, which has like different nuances. So it's asset specific question. So if we would have, or like it depends on the asset. It depends on the asset itself.
But TLDR with our subpools, we'll be certainly targeting some synthetic or liquid versions of other assets.
And by the way, also the subpools will be also enhanced or more smart thanks to dynamic fees and thanks to Oracles, because big risk of curve pools is that you have, so basically TLDR curve pools, they have some special parameter which is called parameter A, which means amplification, and that is actually reason why the trading curve is flattened in the middle, and it's providing this very strong peg, because basically that A parameter is causing kind of like leverage, is like multiplying liquidity which is in the curve pool. So for example, if you open like random curve pool, you can see there is also in the parameters of the pool, you can see the A parameter, let's say 100. That means that if there is 10 million of USDT and 10 million of USDC, the price or like the overall liquidity of the pool is calculated in a sense that it's multiplied by 100. So it's not 20 million, but it's like pretending that it's like 2 billion. That's why the stable coins in the curve pools have this like very strong peg. But this is also like pretty much double-edged sword, because when one of the asset in the curve pool is is becoming oversold or toxic, the peg is actually this A parameter is actually holding it too close to the, it's actually holding it artificially stronger or at artificially bad price than it should be, because the A parameter should go down when when something is oversold. And this will be another feature for our oracles, that when protocol will be aware that one of the asset in the stable swap subpool is overlow, it would actually start to adjust this A parameter down as it should be. But again, this is not possible on the curve on Ethereum, like in this like very autonomous way, because smart contracts, they need to be triggered. They need to be triggered by some like outside agent. So super bullish on our oracles. And also, as you can see, like whatever we are doing, we are trying to think about it as deep as possible and consider everything what we could, and then thinking and working in a way that how we can do it better. Like we are not building this for like to be mediocre, another mediocre project, but how we can improve whatever we can. That's why we choose Substrate, and obviously it was not always easy to work with it, but still, like the amount of freedom and what we can do with the freaking blockchain is like unprecedented in all other stack elsewhere.
Super excited to hear how it all comes together. We've done an hour and 20 minutes now, so I think I'll just ask if there's any further questions just from anybody here who hasn't seen the little chat window.
Like, by the way, we are absolutely open to also discuss the the funding proposal itself. This is not meant to be like avoiding hard questions or anything. It just took more time to go through everything which didn't fit into blog, but also feel free to ask anything related to the hard part.
Seems as though no takers. Okay, guys. Well, if you suddenly decide that there's questions you want to ask them, please, of course, ask the channels after the.
Yeah, I have also one more side note for the funding proposal itself. The funding proposal is not about funding us, while obviously we will be initially the major beneficiary of it, but we also in the meantime need to resolve some practical issue with DAO as a concept itself, and especially obviously HydraDAO, that we need to professionalize community and our operation in a way that it will be working. So the funding is actually available for everybody with the meaningful proposal or work. But on the other hand, like to make this happen, we need to structure DAO in a way that it will not be like too bureaucratic like MakerDAO, but on the other hand, it will be flexible enough as much as it can be, But on the other hand, it needs to be like absolutely transparent, and the community needs to have final word. So if you have any ideas how to structure some open organization like this, or what is meant to be open organization, we are super curious how to do it. Like, we have some idea which we also want to share next weeks, how to do it working, because also it's like one of the biggest challenges for crypto itself, or for the whole crypto, how to make DAO open and working enough that it's just not the buzzword, it's not just some coverage for CEO pulling strings behind scenes, or something like that.
Hey guys, I've got several questions from the community, if you don't mind, regarding the funding proposal.
Sure, let's go.
Most of the community members, they agree on the proposal, but the most frequent question is like, if when the HydraDX runway proposal got approved, so is it possible to incentivize true OG LBP holders in some way, like a sign of appreciation of and providing the 5 million for the protocol development, of course it should be done via discussion and forum, but in your opinion, what most viable options to incentivize OG holders of Hydra? Thanks.
So that should be that staking functionality, because, for example, as like we will have no liquid tokens, or like very small amount even after May. So community will have a big advantage over us. Then everybody who would join some like working group and will be working on something, he can tap. He will have not just available cash compensation, but HDX compensation. Not us, because we have the team allocation. That's one thing, and the third argument would be that basically the funding proposal itself we are doing not because it's not because it's nice, but it's because like all other options would be much more ugly. So I don't think, or like we don't think that like going to couple of big VCs which are still liquid and not destroyed by FTX or other events, and who would be seeking like very predatory terms for this, that it would improve sentiment, or not that it would be helpful for anything, because these DAO deals or treasury deals, even in the bull market, it was all the time like concentrated in the hands of like few companies. So I understand these voices, but what we are doing and how we are doing and what we are planning next, I think is like incentivizing OGs still much more than newcomers who will come later, when dust will settle and when we will be doing good, and when there will be like much more hype around us. So yeah, that's my 2 cents on it. That doesn't mean that we don't want to support OGs, but even in past, I think we show we were also doing everything to make LBP participants as good as possible, either via the dummy staking, which was meant to cover these like opportunity costs, or like you might remember gas refunds, or tripling, or basically everything what we are doing, instead of some like side deals behind the scenes where we would be selling HDX to someone like extremely discounted, while also we don't have much to sell anyway, or basically nothing, as pretty much everything is under the cliff, so we don't have anything liquid. So also the support, or like this like additional incentive for these people that should be then come, I don't know, from treasury, so there should be a vote for it.
Yeah, got it. Thanks. And the second question is regarding the Polkadot treasury. So if it's like we've got a lot of questions, why do we need to use the LBP funds when we can ask Polkadot treasury to fund HydraDX development? So you've mentioned this issue before, but could you just give few reasons why Polkadot treasury can be utilized the way you would like to utilize the LBP funds?
Because Polkadot treasury don't hold anything else than DOT. That's the that's the first thing. The second thing is that we are gonna use it partially, but in a way that it will improve whole ecosystem, and the funding will be used for improving other projects as well. So it's not targeted just for us. And also, as you could see, or basically as you couldn't see, because it's like that, the Parity and Web3 Foundation and also Polkadot Treasury is trying to be as neutral as possible, rather than favoring one specific project. And also then the question which can Polkadot community or holders raise is, okay, we can support Hydra, but what we are getting back for it? So maybe, I don't know, so if then we would need to like structure some, maybe it would be like absolute no-go for them, or we would need to structure some deal to exchange some DOT for HDX, and maybe they wouldn't be willing to dump as much of DOT. So we believe the much better solution how to tap into Polkadot treasury is a meaningful ecosystem initiative which will help other projects as well, rather than coming to Polkadot treasury and say then like, hey, give us funds to one team, to one project. And also, I think it's also important to mention or highlight that we are not asking 5 million at once, but we are really making it harder for us, and with increased accountability. So it's done in these like 6 months installments, which maybe after the first installment, community will see that this is not going anywhere, and we'll block it. We'll block the second installment. Also, to be honest, or at least me personally, I see this as second worst scenario to use all the 5 million. The worst scenario then spending the whole 5 million would be situation that there would be some like critical exploit which would like kill a whole project or something like that. Why I think this is the funding proposal is second worst scenario is I don't know when we'll come the next bull market. But I truly believe that in next 9 to 12 months, so somewhere in the half of the funding proposal, we are able to ship a big part of the future roadmap. We will be able to utilize Polkadot Treasury for increasing not just our security, but the security of other parachains. And we will also use, we will be hopefully able to use the DOT from Polkadot Treasury for increasing liquidity of whole ecosystem dramatically. And this will basically lead to much better sentiment around not just us, but whole ecosystem, which might have like good outcome for the price. And then we can do treasury deal or some other way of funding of development at much higher valuation than right now. And also another important point is that when we will grow, as we will grow, and even right now, as we are thinking about competing with best teams, the 5 mil is really just like for necessary surviving. But if you look how much really costs other DAOs their operations, while it's not even like blockchain and just smart contract protocols, if you have more use cases and if you have like a lot of surface for attack vectors or for mistakes, which can be disastrous, you need to pay a much more experts in various places. So for example, we should run much more of economic modeling when we will have money market. Then we would need another kind of expertise for assessing health of collaterals, their healthy ratios, etc. Like luckily Colin was doing this with respect to US banking system, but like Colin can't do everything with Peter and with one another guy in the research team. The size of the team and size of the research team is not sure if it's like super enough in long term. So the protocol and DAO needs to really grow. And also, for example, if we will get to the point that okay, we resolve some like UX blockers and some like other product inefficiencies, let's really start to do proper marketing and heavy marketing. Then like how we will then there will be obviously need to cover these like marketing costs, and we will need either from community or maybe there will be some contractor or some like supplier of these marketing services. They need to cover these costs, and there will be needed more developers, and there would be bigger costs for infrastructure. So what I want to say is that this is really just like second worst scenario, and we are optimizing for better outcomes. But if the better outcomes will not happen until 2 years, we can still become one of the most, or if not advanced, DeFi protocol and survive in like meaningful time. But we also need to optimize everything for faster growth, because like the competition is hard. Like everybody wants to be the DEX, and not the DEX of Polkadot, but the DEX. Like the stakes are super high, especially after FTX like basically like the DeFi for DeFi as a sector couldn't happen anything better than FTX itself, while obviously like it was like super harmful for whole crypto, but it convinced everybody that the DeFi has product market fit, because also like before the FTX, and especially due to the FTX best prices for tokens and lowest rates for leverage and for borrowing and lending, the people were questioning like, oh, why I would use AMM or why I would use DeFi when we have when FTX has such great prices. But obviously no one could tell that everybody the FTX has such great pricing because it's sponsored by user funds itself. So yeah, sorry for the longer answer, but the truth is that basically there would be much more funds needed for the growth of all of this, but we are going to do it in a most efficient way. And also one more thing, the absolute the alpha and omega of any treasury management is to create meaningful or best possible cash reserve when in the good times for the bad times, and that's basically what we unintentionally accomplished in the past. So because in the bad times, the worst thing what you can do is to sell equity or assets cheaply, because obviously in bear markets all assets are depressed and dumped a lot. And now I'm speaking about not about crypto specific, but in general. So any company or any corporation or organization, whatever. So it's much better if in the bear markets or in the like economic downturn, you can use the cash reserves which you are building up in the bull markets. And on the other hand, when there is like bull market, and every shitty asset, doesn't matter if dog coins or stonks which has like zero fundamentals, when they are like pumping like crazy, then the best thing what you can do is like you are selling the equity or tokens into these like uptrends to create a big buffer of cash, which then in the bear market you are using for growth and for outsmarting and outcompeting basically your competitors. Because then when everybody else is struggling because they didn't make this like cash reserve, they need to dump their assets for much cheaper. So yeah, that's I know it's probably not best thing to hear, but it's really it's working like that. And we were also pretty lucky that that due to some like historic events, we are blessed that we are in this position right now.
Yes, thank you for the answer. We've got no more questions from the community so far.
Hey, Kuba, I have a question. When is HydraDX going to have its ambassador program? Really looking forward to it. Thanks.
Sorry, I can't hear you very well. What's the question? When will HydraDX announce ambassador program?
Yeah, exactly. When is ambassador program? I'm waiting for it a long time. Thank you, admin. Thank you.
I don't know, but my answer would be that the best would be if someone will create or prepare this ambassador program and will get paid for it, because man, there is so much things going on.
Well, thank you a lot, admin. Thank you.
So if anybody was setting something similar, or at least taking part of it, so he or she saw what is working and what is not working in this ambassadors program, please make some for us and ask for reasonable reward or pay for it.
I have another question if I have time. Like you guys mentioned, like potential staking. Maybe I missed like some AMA, but what is the mechanism with staking?
So I was describing there are currently two alternatives how to tackle staking it or how the staking should work. So do you want to repeat both of them or?
No, if you already said it, I'll watch the replay. I was pretty late to the AMA.
So sorry, so what was the question about staking?
If it's about staking, what is the mechanism? But if you already explained it, I will watch the AMA.
Oh yeah. So there are like two internal proposals, and before, like we will put it public, and we will be like absolutely sure that there is not some like obvious issue or less obvious issue with it, which then would require to redo the work. Absolutely, it's already happened with the original staking mechanism, which was meant to be, which was created at the beginning of the ideation about staking, and then over time we realized that it's not safe or as good enough. Yeah, Timbo.
Thank you very much.
Oh. So yeah, Basilisk. So Basilisk is Basilisk is a pretty hard topic. I would keep it for later, but yeah, I would keep it. I would keep it for later. I think like Basilisk needs separate discussion. But TLDR also Basilisk is a great opportunity where to start, where to try the decentralization of governance and development at first. And also Basilisk is still like super helpful for deploying new stuff and catching issues there rather than aping with it to Hydra and then like causing some shit show or issues. So that's the, for example, case with liquidity mining. That we are really happy that it went first there and not on Hydra. But the issues there weren't like critical or like super bad, but yeah, there was like minor things, but still. So those funds will not go like directly towards development of Basilisk, while obviously a lot of the work will be, how to say, like common, because as I said, it's like it's much more safer and beneficial when we can try out and deploy stuff there first, and see how is it behaving in the production, and then going with it to Hydra.
Okay, are there any final questions from anybody here before we wrap it up? I think we've kept everybody long enough. So thank you everybody for joining us here to discuss the runway, the sort of roadmap we've got ahead of us, and the funding for the protocol. We will shortly the proposal to be voted on, which will allow ample time for everybody to have their say and cast their votes as well. So any further questions over the coming days, please do message us in the channels. We'll have to take those offline and follow up where needed. Any final words before we disconnect?
Yeah, thank you very much, admins, for hosting this AMA. It's very informative. I appreciate all of you very, very much.
We love you, Limo.
Yeah, also thank you.
GM.
Yeah, also thank you for everybody who spent quite a lot of time here.
When Greta on council.
Exactly.
Thanks, everybody.
I don't know, maybe council needs some wages or monthly payments to make it more attractive for people to step in.
Yeah, good lads on council, good lads. Only good lads on council.
Yeah. So bye everybody, and thanks for your support, and see you later.
See you, everyone.